Shalom. This week we are reading Parashat Vayigash. We have a very dramatic scene. After 22 years of separation, forefather Yaakov, Jacob, and Yosef meet face to face. The Torah describes this incredible moment with the words, Vayevch al tzavarav od. Yosef cries profusely, very much, upon Yaakov's neck. And actually our sages explain the tradition that while Yosef wept and kissed his father, Yaakov, instead of crying and embracing, was busy reciting Shema Yisrael, HaShem Elokeinu, HaShem Echad. Of course, the hallmark of Jewish faith, the declaration of Shema, Hear, O Israel, HaShem is our God, HaShem is one. This is Deuteronomy 6. This is actually how Yaakov was observing this moment. Yosef was hugging and kissing his father that he hadn't seen for 22 years. And Yaakov was saying, Hear, O Israel, Hashem is our God, Hashem is one, declaring God's unity. This is really interesting. Our Torah actually has a tradition. When we actually write the text of the Torah on parchment, the last letter of Shema and the last letter of Echad, the last letter of the first word of the Shema Yisrael, the word Shema, which means hear, and the last letter of the word Echad, which means one, these two letters are enlarged. They're written very big. The ayin and the dalid, the ayin of Shema and the dalid of Echad, are written very large. And, of course, the word which we're defining here as profusely, that Yosef cried profusely, is actually od, and it's spelled ayin vav dalid. Spelled with these two letters, the ayin from Shema and the dalid from Echad, but with another letter in between, and that letter is od. And you know that the ayin and the dalid also spell the word witness, which is really one of the secrets of this Shema Yisrael and these large letters, that we are all witnesses, as it were, to God's unity. But according to a unique Kabbalistic tradition, Yaakov himself is associated with the letter Vav. He's kind of like a Vav. It's not the place to really get into that, but the Vav is attributed to Yaakov, and therefore we could look at it as Yaakov literally being in the middle of the ayin and the dalid, the witnessing, as it were, testifying to the unity of God in the Shema. So here is the scene that Yosef is crying profusely, this word od, and Yaakov is saying the Shema. You know, there is a great secret regarding Shema, and that is that one of the intentions, the level of kavanah that a person has to have in reciting the Shema, is the readiness to give up one's very life for the sake of the oneness of God, for the sanctification of God's name. And this is really amazing, because the very next passage right here in our section alludes to this idea, because we read, And Israel said to Yosef, Now I can die, since I have seen your face and you are still alive. And of course, Yaakov saying the Shema, declaring that he is ready to die for God, as it were. And Yaakov says, Ki odcha chai. Yaakov says, Ki odcha chai. I am ready now to die because you are still alive. And this word odcha can actually be understood as ha'od shelcha, as it were, your od, your aspect of this extra, this profuse. The first and the last letter is again the same as the ayin of Shema and the dalid of Echad. What's really happening here, a very beautiful level, is that while Yosef is embracing his father, Yaakov, declaring the unity of God, declaring Shema Yisrael, is essentially praising the fact that Yosef himself is a living testimony to God's oneness, that Yosef himself, his very life in Egypt, after having been separated from his father for 22 years, is in itself the bearing witness, as it were, to one God. No less than Yaakov's reading of the Shema is Yosef's very life. Yosef, of course, the very word Yosef means actually more, an addition. And this is, again, the concept of od, and perhaps the allusion that Yaakov is really telling us the greatness of Yosef's exemplary behavior while he was in Egypt even transcends saying the Shema itself. Yosef, the living witness to the oneness of God. And of course, this the very purpose of our lives, to be a living testimony to God's oneness in the world.